So I'm pretty sure it's breakup season, and I'm saying this from my totally representative sample size of like 4 to 5 friends that I've spoken to in the past month who are all transitioning out of relationships, some of which were really long, like 2 to 4 years. It's not been a great year for love myself. But one thing that has helped me a ton in the darkest periods of loss has been having conversations, have been talking to people going through the same thing on how to deal, how to heal, and how to recenter ourselves post heartbreak. And so I thought for any of you who are going through the pain of loss, I would share some of those insights today, and I hope they help you too. I'm going to split this into 2 different parts. Part one is about recognizing and accepting that the separation is final. I think the first thing is not to let the pain trick you into thinking that the decision was a wrong one. Breakups hurt, right? Obviously, because you're trying to let go of an attachment to a person who was very important to you and could very well have been the most important person to you at one point in your life. It's inevitable you're gonna feel sad. Not only in the bad times when you wish they were around to comfort you, but also in the best of times when you wish they were next to you to experience life with you. But whenever you are tempted to run back to this person, both in real life or run back to the fantasy of what you guys used to have, remember this, and this is a quote from one of Matthew Hussey's videos. Understand that it is perfectly possible to feel an enormous amount of pain. But that pain doesn't mean that it was the wrong decision. Pain can trick us sometimes. When we get scared enough and lonely enough, our logic fades and we forget the reasons why we had to leave. In his TED Talk, Guy Winch says that one of the most common tendencies we have when our heart is broken is to idealize the person who broke it. All that does is make our loss feel more painful. Your mind will try to tell you they were perfect, but they were not. And neither was the relationship. And if you want to get over heartbreak, you must remind yourself of that frequently. When I was getting over my past breakups, I watched these videos on repeat. What I would try and force myself to do, albeit very inconsistently, was whenever a positive memory came up, sometimes I would bask in it because it's very nice to live in the fantasy of your past relationship and feel sad. But when I remembered and when I had the clarity of mind too, I would try my best to follow up the positive memory with something negative, right? Like the biggest fights that we had, the moments where I felt insecure or like that relationship wasn't the right one for me. I would try and remember and hold both the good and the bad. And it helped me live in the reality of what the relationships were, right? Which was obviously negative enough to some extent to have the relationships end. I want to emphasize here that this is very different from hating your ex, painting them out to be a terrible person, and becoming resentful of the ways that they treated you or the people that they were. I think it's totally possible to both recognize the complexity of the other person and still choose to walk away. I mean, it is very unlikely that we were in a relationship that was wholly bad. In fact, the fact that we chose to stay with this person for no matter how long we chose to stay with them points to the fact that there were probably many positive memories, right? There were probably many good moments. That person was very likely lovely and kind to us on the good days. And whenever there were bad times, I'm sure a lot of us saw that at their core, that person was just vulnerable and hurting, just like you and I, and were just seeking to be loved. And being able to see the goodness of the people that you were with is valuable because it helps you sit with a degree of clarity of mind and really reflect on the things that you liked about them, along with the things you didn't like about them, the parts of the relationship that were their fault but also your fault, and the things that you did well and maybe didn't do so well in the relationship. But just trying to paint that person in a completely negative light doesn't allow you to do that, and it doesn't allow you to recognize the ways that it was a beautiful part of your past, and also that, you know, probably you had in some way, shape or form contributed to the fall of the relationship. So I think there's like a very delicate balance, right, of learning to see all the good and all the bad that the person was, looking at them objectively as flawed humans just like we are, and still choosing to walk away. Being able to do this means that we have to be able to forgive. And I don't mean just forgiving the other person for the ways that they hurt you and for the ways that they did you wrong, but also forgiving yourself. If you were the person who left, forgiving yourself, because there is sometimes a lot of shame that comes with choosing to put yourself first and to walk away. And forgiving yourself for staying in a relationship that wasn't working out for too long if you were in a toxic relationship. And being able to forgive, whether it's the other person or yourself, depending on the context of your breakup, is powerful because it helps you, it unshackles you from the negative attachment that you hold to this past relationship. It frees you in a way. Okay, but wait. It's one thing to know logically that that person wasn't right for you, but man, it's still really painful to experience a breakup. So let's talk about why feeling the pain and experiencing the void that that person left in your life is necessary. Another video that I always play on repeat after my breakups was Heidi Prieb's How to Stop Feeling Attached to People. It's 30 minutes long, but it's full of gems, and I really recommend that you check it out after. But I'll share some of the key highlights with you. I mean, I think most of us know instinctually that turning to things like alcohol, drugs, work, a new relationship, these are all distractions. And I would actually argue that doing something that is healthy excessively, like exercise, just to run away from the pain and not to think about it, is actually not the best thing to do for yourself, because it doesn't allow you to process the emotions, process the pain. This is relatively common knowledge, but I think the thing that I found the most insightful from Heidi's video was why we need to experience the pain. And I'm just going to quote from her because she puts it the best. The point of the void is to absorb all the parts of the person that you want to carry with you as a part of yourself. To do this, you have to let the void alert you to the ways that you really miss that person and the ways in which their absence has an impact on your life. What that person gave you wasn't just the direct influence that they had. They also showed you something about what you could allow into your life. For example, if you met that person at a point in your life when you were extremely depressed and they made you feel really happy, you would know that you moved through the void when you felt the pain of the loss and integrated the fact that you need a life full of joy and laughter, and found ways to get this joy from other places. If they gave your life some structure or responsibility, you'll know you moved through that void when you get pretty good at managing your own life, and you no longer need that past person to help you organize yourself. In other words, you will know when you're on the other side of the void, when you feel changed, when you don't feel that you need to go back to that other person, either in reality or in your own mind, in order to get the benefit of having had it. And you know, the funny thing is that my mom has told me this so many times before. Like, every single time I would sit on her couch, sad and crying, she would sit next to me and she would say, learn to give yourself what that other person used to give to you. Sometimes it's not about the other person per se and the qualities that they had, but the qualities that they brought out in you. And you know, me and my distraught state, I would look at her and I would be like, yeah mom, I can't give myself cuddles and kisses, and then I would go back moaning about how much I just wanted to be loved. But you know, after watching Heidi's video and processing what she was saying, also after having been through a few of these, you know, separations myself, I realized that there was something beneath that desire to be cuddled or to be enveloped in someone's affection. For me, it's the security and the safety and the comfort that that other person represented for me. And this is especially for the people who came into my life at periods where I was having a lot of trouble at work or in school. I think I'm a relatively self-confident person, but we all have our moments of deep insecurity and lack of confidence in ourselves. And I noticed a pattern where I would bring these thoughts to the people that I was partnered with at that time. I would go to them to seek reassurance about the person that I was. And when they stopped being in my life, I no longer had those people who were my constant cheerleaders, and I had to force myself to reckon with the thoughts in my head that were completely negative. I think it's very normal to expect some degree of comfort in, a relationship, but I realized post-breakups that I had to be that person for myself. And I do think that's why, after each separation, I kind of go into this period of being very involved and into spirituality, like things like meditation, like yoga, things that force me to sit with myself, because there is a lot of discomfort in doing that sometimes when the things that you say to yourself or the thoughts that you have about yourself, about the world, are not the best, not the most positive. I think this can be a little bit different for everyone. For some people, they really appreciate the way that their partner brings out their spontaneity and adventurous spirit. For some people, it's about the way that the other person challenged their minds and opened them up intellectually to different topics. For some people, it's about how their partner brought them out of their shell and made them more sociable, or conversely made them more introspective and thoughtful. Maybe they brought some degree of stability and calm and peace into your life. The idea is figuring out what those things were and trying your best to give those things to yourself. And I mean, obviously this comes at this is like an advanced step. It comes after the many days of crying and watching Netflix romance shows to cry yourself to sleep, talking from personal experience. And scrolling Reddit to read all the heartbreak stories. It comes after all of that. It comes when you are at a stage where you're ready to integrate, right, that loss of that person. And I know that there are some things that you can really only experience or feel completely in a relationship, right? Like, man, I miss cuddles as much as the next single person. But I guess, and I hate to say this because it's so cliche, but every heartbreak that you... Mom! Close the door! I guess every heartbreak that you have is preparing you to become the person that is meant to meet whoever you're meant to be with. And I thought I would just end off with a few words of comfort that my friend wrote to me in the thick of one of my heartbreaks this year. I know it feels like the darkness will swallow you. I know it's hard to feel hope and faith for future relationships when you feel so beaten down by this one. Try and remember to see yourself through this fog of grief. You are strong. Even if, and maybe exactly because, you are hurting. I am so proud of you for sitting through the pain, and I hope you know that one day soon, things will look up again.